A little-known, but very ambitious Warburg project, between the wars was the Agro Joint. Established in 1924, and financed by Felix Warburg, Julius Rosenwald of Sears, Roebuck, and John D. Rockefeller, Jr., the American Jewish Joint Agricultural Corporation funneled millions of dollars into Soviet Russia to transplant hundreds of thousands of Jews to 215 farming colonies on 2.5 million acres. Agro-joint money purchased land, livestock, agricultural machinery and more than 1,000 tractors. 400 trade schools were established to train Jews in metal, woodworking, printing and other skills. In 1927 Felix Warburg toured the Soviet Republic, visiting 40 of the Jewish agricultural colonies, in Ukraine and Crimea, including 2 named after him. At meetings in their community halls, an elated and inspired Warburg praised the colonists and their pioneering work. Back in the United States, he responded to critics, with a vigorous defense of the communist regime. Felix Warburg was quick to note that the Soviet government was improving the economic lot of the Jews. The utopian scheme lasted until 1937 when the Soviets double-crossed the American capitalists and absorbed the Jewish colonies into local Soviet agencies. The last agro-joint assets were transferred to the Soviet government in 1940. This channeling of money to Soviet Russia greatly upset Zionist leaders, such as Stephen Wise and Chaim Weizmann, who grumbled that the millions should have been directed instead to building a Jewish presence in Palestine. Weizmann worked very hard to win Warburg family support for the establishment of a Jewish state there. The Warburgs were skeptical of Zionism, though, fearing that a Jewish state would supplant the traditional organizations, which they headed, as the nexus of Jewish political power. To reassure the reluctant Warburgs, Weizmann told them that the term Jewish state was only meant metaphorically. Back in Hamburg, Max Warburg was even less impressed than his American relations with Weizmann's efforts. Regarding himself as a German patriot, he felt that Germany's Jews should stay put, even though World War I had crippled his business, and the ascension of the National Socialist Party was driving away many of his clients. As the secular head of German Jewry, he once referred to himself as the God of the Jews. Much of his social status would be lost if the Jews emigrated. Even the Warburgs were not entirely immune from the infectious enthusiasm of Hitler's movement. In 1930 Sigmund Warburg told his cousin Karl that, the anti-Semitism aside, he saw some redeeming qualities in the National Socialist cause. The Nazis are doubtless in part dreadfully primitive, in human and political terms, he wrote in a letter. On the other hand, one finds among a large part of them valuable, typically German strengths, which are indeed incredible in a political connection, but show strong feeling for social and national duties. When Hitler came to power in January 1933, Max Warburg was Germany's most prominent Jewish banker. He headed the most important private banking firm, and was a member of the General Council of the nation's central bank. In March 1933 he approved Hitler's decision to name Dr. Jomer Schacht as president of the Reichsbank. The document naming Schacht to this post is signed by Chancellor Hitler and President von Hindenburg, as well as the 8 members of the Reichsbank General Council, including the Jews Mendelssohn, Wassermann and Warburg. Schacht's skill during the 1920s in curing runaway inflation and getting the German economy back on an even keel earned him world renown as a financial wizard. A conservative, old-school banker, he never joined the National Socialist Party,